Hello, guess to call this admin the Hutchison Effect investigation, the Hutchison Effect investigation group on Facebook. Hello, this is a PS, I guess you call it, but welcome to this. Love your posts, man. I'm learning a lot from you folks. You can't learn much from me, I don't think, but anyway, I'm gonna ramble on to something a chapter in my adventures that is rarely, if not ever, covered. Here's something I found. It's kind of funny. John, I need to return your firearms ASAP today. Okay. That was in regard to an old court case, anyway, which I won. It was very political. It involved Trudeau, of Canada's daddy, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Anyway, that's another topic for another time. I want to cover something that's not covered. Any adventures of the Hutchison Effect investigations was about 1988-89 time frame. I was not with George Hathaway, by the way, or Alex Pizarro, but with George Lissacase, the Pinnacle Oil International, or X-Energy Corporation, and Alexander Shereshevsky, a good friend of mine to this day. I'm not friends with George. And they approached me, and Aaron Kovacs of Boeing Aerospace funded us to reproduce the Hutchison Effect. I think we kind of went overboard on it because we had the building vanish, apparently, according to an insurance agent. We had a lot of different weird effects. And at about the same time, I got the letter of invitation by Dr. Peter Kokoschnik to come to Austria and bring the lab. At that time, I met Yen Gazda, who granddad was a famous inventor, Antoine Gazda. Anyway, we coupled together, kind of fell in love, you know. We decided to take up Peter's offer and go to Germany and Austria via also Dr. Margarita Kokoschnik and Roland Brito and his group and Max Planck Institute and other groups. So I did, and we had the shipping container ready and going. We had to break into the lab because George Lissacase wanted it for himself. And at this lab, we developed the field stress detector, myself, Alec, and George. George ran off with it later on and made millions of dollars, and it's all over the internet today. The field stress detector, George Lissacase, X-Energy Corporation. Anyway, that's a long one, isn't it? Alrighty, so George is still at it today. Alec and I are still in contact, and what happened was during that time, the cargo container was sabotaged where it couldn't be put onto a ship for shipment. It was captured also by Canadian government officials, people from Switzerland. Let's see, it was pretty dramatic times. A lot going on in Canada when I was not there. A 1,500-pound transformer fell on George Lissacase, levitated off the truck, hit him, and put him in the hospital for 3 months. There was other weird things that were reported by Alec, and other weird things because all of this was involved in the British Columbia Supreme Court, which I still have all the documents on the whole case, including Environment Canada, lawyers, and others. And the fax machine was ticking a lot at Roland Brito's home in Munich with faxes from the lawyers saying, "This is unbelievable, you will not believe what's going on," with the weird effects that happened because George attempted to create weird effects and did create weird effects that came on to him. And there was transformers that were moving a whole different angle according to Alec and the lawyers and some of the others. So this part, I was with them for maybe just under a year. I took a black and white film of my adventures there and predicted it's going to come to a dramatic end. You can see that on the YouTube channel, Nancy Lazarian Hutchison. Check it out. I took the video myself. got some effects on it. Anyway, so this went on. There was a lot of weird players involved in all this mysterious activity. And I was with Dr. Peter Kokoschnig at that time, and guess who showed up at the door? Interpol. They wanted to see how I was doing, and they showed up and interviewed me and went and left. Also, another person made contact with Henry Champ, NBC News, and somebody called J. Rab from Switzerland showed up in Vancouver when I wasn't there. Alec describes the mysterious things that went on there during those times. They're pretty dramatic stuff, and this is never covered in any of the folks that like to write me up in their whatever they think of me attitude on their videos or documentaries or other silly things they like doing. I guess got the story right, do it yourself. That's what I'm trying to do. I mean, good heavens. But yeah, so that happened. The BC Supreme Court in Canada agreed that, well, it's my laboratory, not George Listicase's. Well, George and I and Alec worked on this field stress detector together, and we would run around, walk around, barium titanate and Rochelle salts and old diodes, and take measurements of things. And when all this was happening, of course, which I just mentioned, George vanishes off with all this technology, which actually I found out later was the property of Alex Pizarro, one of my main partners with George Hathaway. His technology, which they stole. Anyway, I didn't know that until later, after Alex Pizarro passed away and all. I said, it just goes on and on and on and on, like a soap opera, right? Anyway, it was an interesting time. There were a lot of things like nails floating through the wall, a box of nails going through the wall. Alec, I know, took pictures. Other pictures exist prior to that by Roland Brito, who took, I think it was 2,000 photographs or 4,000. And that's when Thomas Lee Richardson, friend of Nikola Tesla, would visit my lab and observe things happening. Anyway, back to Alec and George. So they also blew up a main capacitor, 25,000 volt capacitor, 55,000 joule type low inductance used in plasma research. George, wired it in reverse, and boom, huge explosion. Luckily, nobody was near it. It was covered up because there was polychlorinated biphenyls, I am sure, were in it, and that was covered up by friends of George Listacase, who worked for Environment Canada. Anyway, Aaron Kovacs of Boeing Aerospace stopped his funding. I have those letters, by the way, until the matter is resolved enough. And, well, being in Europe, I got all this stuff coming in like that. So Canadian government stepped in and actually put the lab and most of the contents behind a fence, labeled, put a sign up, one, let's see, secret, keep out. It's in the newspapers. Newspaper headline was, Ministry Bill Secret PCB Site in Surrey, British Columbia. Inventor has gone to ground, which is me. So that was that time frame, and a lot of it happened when I was in Europe. So, on other things, because I get emails from Alex still to this day, and we're going to meet up because we have our annually little party we have together about the transformer falling on George party, we call it. It's not a funny matter. I mean, George Listacase, I saw a video of him. He's on the internet somewhere. He looked totally thrashed out. And talking about his field stress detector. But that's some of the weird stuff that happened there. There's somebody involved with called the Meister, Mr. Beaster, and others, Jerry, a bunch of people a very dramatic time, and I asked Roland for copies of all the faxes from the lawyers and other people. That's when I learned that Prince Hans Adam Liechtenstein was a fan of mine, and I wrote him while I was in Munich and got his letters and stuff. Over time, amassed a lot of letters. I believe he currently funds really good scientist George Hathaway. Has the highest regards for George, the best scientist, as well as Ken Scholars, Bob Greener, and others that I've known, and high regards. We understand each other. But this is some of the stuff that nobody talks about in their little funny, ridiculous reports on me. The reports on me always involves the government. As I mentioned in my previous admin message, I have no problems with government. I got a lot of stuff fine. I've got great help from the government. I keep them informed of my progress. Not the Canadians, but the U.S. Army people and the Pentagon folks and others. I will not name names. It's not fair to name names of these people because they're currently active. Okay. Anyway, going back to this whole adventure at, what was it, 13th and Kingsway building that vanished. So I was able to, with my black and white crazy camera, had to drag the camera around with a VCR to capture what I was doing. You'll see it. I captured some effects when I fired everything up. And shortly after that, Yin and I got security guards to bust into the lab prior to the Supreme Court case, prior to everything else, and that's when we got some of it into a cargo container. But the rest of it was captured by many others. Now, Richard Glue, Environment Canada, handed me over all the documents. When I returned from Europe and said, this is something I tell my grandchildren all about, the whole incredible adventures that happened there. So the question is, to you, what do you think was going on at 13th and Kingsway when I wasn't operating the machines? George Lissacase was operating the machines, okay, according to Alexander, but not a lot of the equipment wasn't there to complete the whole thing. It was already in a cargo container, always, I think perhaps put in storage at SureGuard mini storage, which I retrieved it after I was all my guns, machine guns and vintage guns, artillery and junk, plus a lot of the electronics. So I don't know what George is doing to create something that dramatic in that place, or something happened, or some energy was caught in a vortex. The lucky good news is I have all this in writing, documented by the Supreme Court lawyers and everybody else. We had dramatic metal samples, transportation, we built a Smith coil, we had other unique things happen there, so I don't know. I'm going to see how long this is, because it takes, oh my god, it's already, because it takes a long time for this to upload onto Facebook, and my YouTube is still down to be operational on Friday, because they gave me a strike, and I can't post anything until Friday. I'm telling you, everything's getting weirdly tight. Now even eBay is getting tight, and if you want metal samples, contact me directly. Don't go to eBay or Barium Titanate. Contact me directly. I have it. And unfortunately, a lot of sellers are leaving eBay because they want all this information about you and all this stuff. So I managed to sell two Sparium round pieces. One went to Italy and the other is going to New York, and hopefully I get paid by eBay. We'll see. Anyway, I gotta go. It's a long video, and we'll see you guys later, Gators.